When a movie flops, it's hard to know who to blame: the script, the director, the marketing. But Disney's Snow White didn't just fail at the box office. It was publicly torn apart by one of the most feared voices in media analysis, Ben Shapiro. This wasn't just a review, it was a brutal takedown. Shapiro didn't just question the film's quality, he went after the attitude, presence, and even the casting of Rachel Zegler, calling her the worst casting mistake in cinematic history. What you're about to hear isn't just another opinion, it's a critical sentence that marked the beginning of the end for this cursed remake. From the very first minute, Ben Shapiro said out loud what many had only whispered. Rachel Zegler is incredibly unlikable in public, and he wasn't just referring to awkward interviews. Shapiro went straight to the heart of the issue: an actress who insults the original material, disrespects the character she's supposed to portray, and mocks the fans who criticize her. In Shapiro's words, "You didn't write Snow White. You didn't direct it. You're just a piece on the board. Do your job and shut up." That single line resonated with thousands on social media, who began repeating the message. Because now it wasn't just about a movie. It was about an actress who seemed to despise the very story she was meant to embody. But Shapiro didn't stop at Zegler. He questioned the entire logic behind the casting. How is it possible, he asked, that Gal Gadot, an internationally recognized beauty, was cast as the jealous villain of Rachel Zegler? Are we supposed to pretend the magic mirror is broken? Gal Gadot envies Zegler. Come on, we're not blind. With sarcasm, Shapiro voiced what millions were thinking. The casting wasn't just off, it was an insult to the audience's intelligence. He went on to label Rachel as a PR nightmare and suggested that her involvement in the project was a costly mistake for Disney. Instead of reviving the magic of a classic, back in 1937, Disney's original Snow White enchanted the world. But according to Ben Shapiro, Rachel Zegler did the exact opposite. She set out to destroy the story from the inside. Comments like, "The prince is a creep," "I hate the original movie," and "I deserve to be paid for every hour I wear this dress," were dissected one by one on Shapiro's shows. Each statement, he argued, pushed audiences further away from the film. While the script was already controversial for its creative changes, Shapiro insisted the real issue was the message. How can you sell nostalgia when your lead actress is ashamed of the story? Shapiro also zeroed in on something Disney couldn't hide: the budget. $270 million spent, overflowing special effects, a production that had to be cut and re-edited after a wave of viral backlash. And yet, Snow White made only $43 million in its opening weekend. To Shapiro, this was the ultimate confirmation. "If you don't respect your audience," he said, "if you insult their emotional connection to a classic, if you turn a beloved princess into a humorless activist, don't expect them to show up at the theater." Instead of reviving a classic, Disney turned it into a textbook example of what not to do with a cherished story. And Rachel Zegler, once seen as the studio's big bet, became its biggest letdown. After Ben Shapiro's explosive takedown, no one in the industry came to Rachel Zegler's defense. Not Disney, not her PR team, not even her co-stars. The silence was deafening, and it said one thing loud and clear: everyone knew he was right. In any other situation, Disney would have unleashed its media machine to counter the narrative. But this time, the strategy was obvious: go quiet, bury the scandal, and hope the public forgets. The problem: the public didn't forget. And by refusing to stand by her, Hollywood made one thing unmistakably clear: Rachel Zegler's time as a leading Disney princess was over. But what shocked people the most wasn't just Shapiro's takedown. It was the "to be continued." What followed was massive public approval. Thousands of users began sharing clips from Shapiro's analysis, quoting his harshest lines and thanking him for finally saying what so many had been thinking. Even people who had never heard of Ben Shapiro before started following him just because of his brutal review. The comments were crystal clear. Finally, someone unafraid to speak out against Disney. Rachel Zegler destroyed Snow White, and Shapiro nailed it. This isn't politics, it's just common sense. At that moment, the criticism itself became bigger than the film, and Rachel, unintentionally, became the poster child for what not to do when you're leading a franchise that powerful. But the impact didn't stop there. Behind closed doors, executives at other studios began reassessing the marketing strategies for similar upcoming projects. Internally, the term Zegler started being used as a cautionary label, a warning. Projects like Hercules, Lilo and Stitch, and The Princess and the Frog began facing pressure to re-evaluate casting decisions, messaging, and media strategies. The message was loud and clear. You can modernize a classic, but you can't insult it. And that message was born out of a viral critique that ultimately had more impact than any official Disney trailer or promo. Weeks after the film's release, Rachel tried to tell her side of the story. In an interview, she claimed her words had been taken out of context, that she was a victim of misogyny, and that Rachel Zegler claimed her portrayal of Snow White was meant to be a celebration of the modern woman. But for many, it was too late. Social media users rejected her attempt to justify herself, and several media analysts agreed. Rather than apologizing, she seemed to be blaming the audience once again. Ben Shapiro responded indirectly with a sharp remark. When criticism comes from every angle, the problem isn't the angle, it's the center. That single line reignited the conversation. Rachel had the chance to stay silent, reflect, and rebuild, but instead, she chose to stay on the offensive against an audience that had already turned its back on her. Following the viral backlash and box office collapse, Disney was left with no choice but to take internal action. Sources close to the studio revealed that multiple projects tied to the Snow White remake were quietly cancelled. This included official merchandise that was already in production, advertising contracts with partner brands, and a planned toy line inspired by the characters, all shelved indefinitely. Additionally, top executives were called in to review casting, protocols, and media strategy. The goal? To prevent another Rachel case, as it's now referred to internally. Disney finally realized something it had ignored for too long. Respect for the original material is non-negotiable. As the entertainment world moves on and studios announce new projects, Rachel Zegler's name has vanished from every major release radar. No upcoming roles, no premiere dates, not even rumors of new collaborations. And while her team now tries to keep a low profile, the message circulating throughout the industry is clear. No one wants to take the risk. The actress once introduced as the future face of Disney is now facing Hollywood's most silent and effective form of exile, indifference. And maybe that's the most devastating part. Not the failure of a film, but the realization that an opportunity that big may never come again. Rachel Zegler didn't fall because of a bad performance, or even a weak script. She fell for something deeper. Underestimating the weight of a beloved story, the love of a loyal audience, and the responsibility of the role she was chosen to represent. Ben Shapiro wasn't the only one to criticize her, but he was the one who said it the clearest, the sharpest, and with a level of force that no one else in the industry dared to use. And that viral, fierce, and precise critique marked the beginning of the end for a career that had barely started. Disney bet on a modern, rebellious, and bold princess, but ended up creating a character no one wanted to follow. And while the media now ignores her name, removes her face from posters, and studios rewrite their plans without her, the harshest punishment didn't come from the public. It came from Hollywood itself. Let me know what you think in the comments. Can Rachel Zegler still redeem herself? Or is the silence around her the clearest sign that her fairy tale is over? Subscribe and turn on notifications, because in this new Hollywood, not all endings are happy ones.